I remember telling this joke and a phone book comes flying on the stage. Patrice threw a phone book at me. All you heard was, and you see, bap, it hits the floor. And Patrice said, read it. There's better material in it than what you're saying now. Crowd starts laughing.
In this dark basement known as the Comedy Cellar in New York, some of the best comedians in the world have gathered to sharpen their skills in the often brutal world of stand-up comedy. Bill Burr, Kevin Hart, Jim Norton, Colin Quinn, Greg Giraldo, and Bobby Kelly all said there was no place like the Comedy Cellar to help them develop the thick skin needed in the comedy scene. The Cellar reserved a table just for comedians to gather and abuse each other over their new haircut or the shirt they wore that day. No one was safe, and to be brutalized at the table was often seen as a rite of passage.
Yeah. That's so awful.
It's so awful.
It sounds terrible.
It made us better. If you had all 5 of them trashing you, like when you went on stage and somebody heckled you, it was hilarious.
Yeah. But in this world, there was one figure who loomed larger than all the rest.
And there were nights when you were on a roll and you were killing someone at the table, and then he starts walking in, like your heart would sink, like, oh fuck, here we go. Here we go. Now it's the real deal. Dad's home.
At the comedian's table in the Comedy Cellar, Patrice was king. Known for his brutal honesty and ability to improvise for hours on stage, Patrice O'Neal was a comic's comic through and through. He was the definition of no fucks given, and this attitude not only made him incredibly respected by his peers, but also translated into some of the greatest stand-up comedy the world has ever seen.
If you give a lie detector test to a man and a woman and ask them the same questions, man, we would pass them both up to a point where it's like, hey, ask a woman, you love your man, you love your family, you love your home, you love what you built? Yep. All right. You see Brad Pitt or Denzel Washington or whatever standing there, would you risk everything you built with your man just to sleep with him? And women, look, they'll go, nah, I wouldn't. And they'll pass the test. They'll be like, they look good, but I wouldn't. Ask guys the same thing, boom, love your woman, the kids, the house. Yeah. All right, you see that girl passed out behind the dumpster? Would you risk everything for a passed out woman behind a dumpster? I don't want to, but look at her with garbage on. She looks so cute with garbage on her.
When Patrice was a boy, there was one traumatizing event that would come to shape much of his later worldview.
What happened? It was white and blackness involved.
Oh boy, got yourself
a
piece of white ass.
So here's the story. We're going to look for these other girls that we met. So we started, talking to them, blah, blah, blah. So in the car, there was a black girl and a Portuguese girl. And it just went smoothly. Just talking, just chilling, just fucking, things like that. Being young, here's the mistake. We told one of the guy's cousins that this chick, we did this, we had a fun time 2 weeks ago. He goes and grabs her, and this fucking cocksucker, to this day, I hate this motherfucker. He blackmails her. Says, listen, if you don't suck my dick,
oh no,
I'm going to tell everybody. She sucked his dick. After she sucked his dick, she runs through school. She goes into her big brother's classroom who goes to the same school. He gets up, and he's chasing that motherfucker around school.
Wow.
Trying to kill him. They get him in the office. She goes, Raby. And then she goes, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
And I got raped in Boston 2 weeks earlier.
Oh, no.
What?
Oh, no.
What? This is why I love my mother like I don't love anybody else. And when I told her it was a white girl, she went, ah!
Oh, man.
I was in the trunk of a car heading to a state unknown.
How'd you guys get off?
Didn't get off.
You didn't?
Didn't get off. I was 16. She was 15. But we admitted, yeah, we fucked her.
Yeah.
But it's 16, 15. And that's statutory.
That was statutory.
That's it.
How long?
2 months.
Wow.
O'Neal would remain haunted by the swiftness with which his whole life could be destroyed by a stereotype. Patrice fought back, not by running from the stereotypes, but by reshaping them. Patrice saw the inherent friction caused by our cultural histories and backgrounds, but he was of the philosophy that we can choose to find the funny in our differences, instead of being so damn angry all the time.
I hate how much fun black people can have racially, man. It's just, I can say anything I goddamn want racially, and white people have to sit there and take it. I am evil, yes. It's like, come on, man. Black people ain't getting no money for slavery. We ain't gonna get reparations. What we did have is language. We got to say anything we want, the way we want, which is the reparations, which is the fact that I can say cracker all day and everybody goes, but because that was my payoff.
Where Patrice undoubtedly left his most unique mark was on the topic of women and relationships. And this also happened to be where his words caused the most friction.
Patrice, you're full of bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know that?
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Here's a question. Here's a good, serious question. Okay, ladies, if you didn't have a vagina, like say it was a terrible train accident, right? And the doctor was like, we have to remove your pussy right away or you're gonna die. How would you keep your man past, you get a 2-month guilty, I can't leave the bitch right away because she just lost a pussy in a train accident. How would you keep your man past that if you didn't have a vagina? Wow. Nothing? You can talk, you can talk. Suck his dick, okay, mouth. Asshole, okay, great. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, I've been getting pussy beamed the whole show, right? But I give women the opportunity to say, I'm gonna make myself worth more. But you just classified yourself as a series of holes, but I'm supposed to treat you special, but you're just a bunch of holes to yourself. No one said learn how to play Xbox, learn how to play pool, tell better stories, get another bitch that got a pussy to come on in.
Much of comedy is tiptoeing the line of what the audience finds acceptable. Then Patrice came along and took a 300-pound cannonball dive past that line. And yet, no matter how far he pushed, he could always win the audience back. He was a master at pulling you into his reality and making you see things from his point of view, even if you completely disagreed with what he was saying.
The great thing about watching that HBO half hour is that it's all like every bit starts with like provoking, unlikable statements. He says something and they're like, huh, and then he kills with that. It's amazing. He's fucking... No.
It was the Socratic method according to Patrice. If you came at him without a firm grasp of who you are and what you stand for, he was going to destroy your entire existence, and along the way, force you into self-examination. The term reality distortion field was coined at Apple in 1981 to describe Steve Jobs, who with a mix of bravado, charisma, charm, and utter dickishness was able to convince himself and others that almost anything was possible. This idea works in a negative way as well. If you are intimidated by someone, they will pick up on it, and very often they will use it to push you around. This idea is perfectly captured in a story Patrice told about being robbed as a boy.
This is why I'm so angry. I'm so quick and angry. Because the guy had been testing me all the way that night. We was playing basketball, and just some dude was around, just bumping into everybody. Okay, it's called the punk test. So, it's like 5 phases. I bump into you, then it's like a step on your foot, then it's like a hard pinch. He goes, hey, yo. And I said, uh-oh. So I tried to be hardcore.
Right away.
I tried to be hardcore, but he had already given me the punk test. I failed miserably. He didn't need a gun at that point, but he knew it. He already knew.
This moment taught him a valuable lesson. Where most people go their entire lives terrified of confrontation, Patrice decided to lean into it. He was able to talk about race and sex in a way nobody else could, even in comedy clubs, because he was a master at disarming people. First, because he knew himself inside and out, and was completely comfortable telling people about his suitcase of glass dildos or his time spent in prison. And second, because his incredible sense of humor could shut down any anger you feel towards him.
A violent act of hitting her in the back of her head, her body.
It's called the donkey punch.
Which will then...
Why are you laughing? She's outraged. It's called the donkey punch. It's whole humor that she has no clue what it is.
He not only embraced confrontation, but sought it out, because that is where he thrived. There are many great comedians who passed away far too young, but unlike most of them, Patrice had thousands of hours of his musings on life, relationships, women, and happiness, immortalized on the radio show Opie and Anthony, which have now been cataloged across YouTube, allowing the truly unique thoughts of Patrice O'Neal to live on in a way never seen before. As good as Patrice's stand-up was, this is where he was at his best, sitting in a room with his friends, shooting the shit. His advice for men about the topic of relationships was so different from what anyone else was saying, and eventually it all culminated with the birth of the Black Phillip Show, with Patrice acting as the Black Dr. Phil for the dozens of men and some women who called in seeking advice. There was a simple message Patrice wanted us to get, and that was to not let anybody walk all over you. For all the talk of toxic masculinity in society today, way more men are struggling to assert themselves than ever before. While the entire world is out there trying to tell you where your value as a man comes from, Patrice was the one person to come along and say that it is your own happiness that comes first, before everything else. If you spend your life trying to please others, you will only make yourself and everyone around you miserable. It is a crime that Patrice was not a household name, but much of that was his own doing. His pure not give a fuck attitude is what made him so great. But
yeah, he had the most don't give a fuck of any
100%.
comic I ever met. Like
100%.
the most.
100%.
Yeah.
Good and bad though.
Yeah.
You know, there was a good to it and there was also some bad to, you know, a lot of things that didn't happen for Patrice probably could have happened, but I think the level of not give a fuck prevented some of those things.
Well, he was almost too authentic.
Yes.
Patrice hated the reality of show business, and he regularly spoke out against it. For Patrice, all that mattered was the truth, and he simply refused to not speak his mind. But at a certain point, it seemed like honesty, integrity, and refusing to compromise became sugar-coated terms for self-sabotage. It's not like he was asked to do ridiculous or immoral things. He simply had to show up and audition for Spike Lee, or not trash the execs at Comedy Central for 30 minutes. But then again, maybe we don't get one without the other. Maybe the guy who would sit there and be contrite in a Comedy Central interview could never be as genuinely funny as Patrice O'Neal, the man who spent all his time with the best comedians in the world, all of whom, without question, said Patrice was always the funniest guy in the room.